Fair.
And I will also transcribe it, so don't worry too much about taking notes. You'll get the audio transcription of today as well. So welcome everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. I am really inspired to be connecting with you today, sharing with you, and I'm really targeting speakers, aspiring authors, entrepreneurs, and women who want to speak and be heard all over the world and to learn how to speak from the heart. I will share with you today in today's webinar my journey. I'll just share my screen because I created a PowerPoint presentation so that we can record that as well in this talk. My journey started with a personal experience where I was trying to literally connect with people to share my personal story as a way to fundraise for the orphaned children in my immediate family. So in today's presentation, I want you to really think about what is my life purpose? How can I refine my message or my story so that it really reaches the people I'm trying to reach? How can I become empowered to make a difference, not just in my life, but in other people's lives? How can I be more effective to stand up on stage, and especially in large crowds? And right now we have an opportunity with the internet. COVID-19 is a gift. There are more people online right now than they were before all of this happened. So how can you reach people on a mass level using the internet and making a difference? How can you write and publish your book on Amazon and Kindle? How can you create a coaching program and a mentoring program around your personal content? How to gain credibility and visibility online and offline, and to develop that digital footprint that can create your personal branding so that you're known as an expert in your particular subject matter. So those are the things I want to try and cover. So there's a lot of fears and doubts when you go on this speaking journey. You know, a lot of people will think to themselves, how can I connect with other women or with my target audience more effectively? And then we start doubting ourselves, that little voice in our head that says, am I good enough to be in front of this audience? And it's all about just gaining the self-confidence and making sure that you will be heard. Will I be seen? And by this statement, I'm talking about there's so much content right now online, both in speaking and being an author. People are self-publishing. There's hundreds and hundreds of people with content. So how are you going to make yourself visible? And does my story matter? So unless your story matters to you, it's not going to matter to anybody else. That's one of the things that I've learned personally in my life. So being passionate about your story, unless it's important to you, it's not going to be important to anybody else. And will my story make a difference to someone else? So I believe that we go through all of our struggles, our trials and tribulations for a reason. We go through it so that we can be of service to other people and make a difference through our stories. And whether your story has been positive or negative, there's always something good that comes out of it. So my story started when I wrote a book, and I wrote my first book as a way to raise money and create a fundraiser so I could help sponsor the orphaned children in my immediate family. So for those of you who know me, I'm from Zimbabwe. I grew up at a time when the AIDS pandemic was rife in Africa. My grandmother had 11 children. She had 34 grandchildren, and 19 of my first cousins died of HIV-related diseases. So what is happening right now in the United States, around the world with COVID-19, I'm living through my second pandemic. And at the time, I could see that people in the rest of the world didn't really know what was going on, couldn't really relate to AIDS because it was happening over there. It was mostly happening in Africa and nowhere else in the world. I self-published this book and I became a speaker to try and sell the book. It wasn't something I planned. I would look for social networking groups that were looking for speakers, and I would go out there and speak for free, but sell 100 copies every single month by doing 4 presentations a month. I would speak once a week. So right now, the world is in need of a feminine energy. We have a huge advantage in that diversity is needed right across the globe. And as women, we have to tap into our strength. And especially women of certain ages, cutting across different cultures and nationalities. So this is an invitation to all women all over the world to gain and cultivate that self-confidence and speak. And to learn to speak from the heart, to learn to be truly, truly authentic, and tell the story of your life and how it has affected you and how it can affect and inspire other people around the world as well. So this event is really for women who are into transformation from all walks of life. I try and find women who've never spoken before. That's where I find my biggest joy. And when I work with women who have spoken, who are professional, you can be trained technically to speak perfectly. But if you cannot connect on a heart-to-heart level, you can be a perfect speaker, but still not able to have those authentic connections with your audience. So I teach people to speak from the heart, and that's why my program is called Speaking from the Heart. So I know what it takes to establish yourself as a speaker and as an author. And it's all about practice, 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 practice. Can't do it any other way. You know, I used to have people say to me, Gertrude, why are you going and doing all these free speaking presentations? It was because I knew that I had to overcome the fear of standing in front of people. I had to perfect my presentation to a point where I knew exactly what was getting through to people and what wasn't. So I was constantly rewriting my presentation. I would normally give people a feedback form before I started to speak. And I would say to my audience, please write down anything that really hits home or resonates with you during my presentation. Or if you have any questions that came up while I was speaking, please share those questions with me as well. And so that really helped to perfect and see what was getting through to people and what wasn't. So I published my first book 18 years ago, and it was absolutely life-changing. So it's about perfecting the art of speaking. You can only be perfect with practice. You're in safe hands. I hope I can help you overcome any of the fears that you have. I started attending seminars. I started doing workshops all over the United States and New Zealand. And it was amazing what I learned when I started getting mentors who took me through the steps and showed me my shortcomings and showed me how to improve. I learned how to sell my books without selling. It was just an absolutely amazing experience. I'm going to just check who's joining us on the call. Barbara, join us, switch on your video.
My video's not working.
Okay, good to see.
I thought, so you can see what I look like.
That is awesome. I'll just continue with the webinar. Lovely to see you again.
Thank you.
So getting coaching, getting mentoring, I ended up being mentored by people like Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield, the guys who wrote Chicken Soup of the Soul, and they became personal friends of mine. I was mentored by Bob Proctor, John DeMartini. I attended their workshops, and something happens when you are in the room with people like that. They transfer everything they know by you immersing yourself in their program. So it's really worthwhile investing in yourself, in getting a mentor when you're on this journey. And it's about working smart and not working hard. A lot of people try and reinvent the wheel. They say that success leaves clues. There's people who have done it, who've done it well. Rather learn from them, emulate them, copy what they've done, than trying to do it from scratch. And then you can perfect it and make it even better. So there is an opportunity right now for women to be on international stages. There is a massive opportunity. Diversity and inclusion is on every organization's priority list. And we are really bridging a gap, connecting with women in the developed world and women in the developing world. And that's really where my passion lies, is how can I reach out to the poorest of the poor and show them how to use this platform called the internet to have their voices be heard and to share their stories. Mm-hmm. So what is Speaking of the Heart all about? It's about learning a few of the secrets that I've learned. Speaking is one of the best ways to feel empowered yourself, to feel connected to others, and to unite with other people who have a common vision or a common purpose like yours. So I choose very selectively which speaking platforms I'm speaking on. I don't accept any speaking opportunities because I know who my tribe are. I'm looking for social impact conferences where there are people who want to make a difference in the world. And speaking is a science, it's not just a guessing game. There's an interesting TED talk that I watched once where a scientist mapped out the best orators in the world, and there is a rhythm to creating the best speech. He mapped out, I think it was Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, and the rhythm is you start off at the bottom where you tell your story of what was the lowest point in your life, what was the things that weren't going right. And then you take people up on a curve and you talk about the dream of where you wanted to be and how you got there. And then you bring them down to another low point in your life, so that by the end of your presentation, you've taken people on a roller coaster ride of emotions. You start low, you take them up to the dream. You tell them what happened when you achieved the dream, then something else happened in your life that wasn't very good. You were down in that valley, but what did you do to get yourself up? And then you take them up again. So you can actually literally map your speech by a zigzag formation of going down, staying down, coming back up again, staying up, coming down. And really that's life. Life is like riding a wave. Nothing ever stays the same. And if you can communicate that the only constant in life is change, and that if somebody is at their lowest point, the only way from there is up, that's when you start giving people hope. That's when they start seeing themselves in your story. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So cultivating confidence to speak and helping to reshape those belief systems that run us like engines in the back of our minds. You know, we've all grown up with people in our lives who have self-limiting beliefs that they impart onto us. And we take it on very subconsciously, but it happens in every single person's life. So the difference is simply telling your story and connecting authentically. How do you become an authentic speaker? How do you take off the mask so that by the time you finish speaking, people know who you really are? Like I said, you can be trained to speak technically perfect, but if you're not authentic, the connection doesn't happen. So I'm also going to want to share with you how to get online and offline speaking gigs, especially during these challenging times. And there are a lot of opportunities that have presented themselves in the last 3 months. So, female empowerment stories, they are needed on every single level. And I'm trying to get as many women on the TED platform as possible, because getting on TED changed my life. It changed the ball game. Even if you speak at a TED event and there's 5 people in the room, when that video gets online and on the TED platform, you're now speaking to millions. So if you get an opportunity to speak at any TED event, don't be selective and think, oh, it's in a small town, nobody's going to see it. You are reaching millions by being a TED speaker. So TED really notches up your game. So things you need to know. There's a few known tactics that have been used by hundreds of speakers to get online. And one of the things that I've learned is I take every opportunity to speak, especially if it is to my audience or to my target market. And I'm not really worried about the money. Because even when you speak for free, it's the connections that you make. You don't know who's in the room. You don't know who's going to tell someone who knows someone who knows someone. I remember speaking at an event once, very small event. It was, again, through the Rotary Club. And an American lady was in the audience who happened to be working at a university in Pittsburgh. There was a position at this university for international scholars to come in. They would bring in authors and poets and musicians, and you were paid to lecture for 6 months at this university. And the person who actually sponsored that position was Mrs. Rooney. There's a football team in America called the Steelers. Mrs. Rooney is the wife of a billionaire. She was working as a professor at this university. And when she retired, she created a position called the Rooney International Scholar. And they were paying me $10,000 a month to lecture 2 hours a week. I had a furnished house. I had a car. They paid for all of my expenses. I brought my children there and homeschooled them while I was there and wrote my second book at that time. And that's when I discovered that I could transition my personal story from just being a memoir to an academic text, because the university bought my book in bulk for the students. I started lecturing in creative writing. I started lecturing in the IT department because IT was my first profession. I was lecturing in history and oral storytelling. It just showed me another side of myself I didn't know was there, but it made me an authority on my subject. And you are already an authority on your subject matter because it's your personal story. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So the art of storytelling is a craft. And speaking from the heart gives you a step-by-step process on how to build that confidence, how to refine your message. That idea worth spreading. When we talk about TED, your title has to be so clear that it makes people curious to find out more about who you are. So it makes a profound difference to be the queen of authenticity. You know, I have been invited to speak at events where they're male dominated. I was invited to speak at an event for dairy farmers in the South Island of New Zealand. And I remember thinking, what am I going to say to dairy farmers? And the man who invited me said to me, Gertrude, you're in business. They're businessmen. And your message is inspiring because you started a business in a foreign country with no money. And I created 6 successful companies in New Zealand, knowing absolutely nothing but the skills that my grandma taught me in a village in Africa. You know, I grew up in an environment where poverty is everywhere. By the age of 6, I was hustling. I was selling to make money for my own school fees. So it's in my DNA to hustle. It's in my DNA to sell. And my mother used to say that people buy from people they like. Unless people like you as a person, they're not going to buy anything you sell. So the best salespeople are likable. And they're likable because people can relate to them. They can see themselves in them. And that's why, Danielle, when I was talking to you earlier about being really clear who your target market is, that is really important. A lot of speakers think that their message is for everyone. No, it isn't. There is a 33% rule to anything you try and sell or promote. 33% of people will love everything you do. 33% of people will hate it. And 33% are just indifferent. They don't give a damn. It's got nothing to do with them. So when you narrow your target market, it makes it easier for you to reach your audience. When I started my coaching business, I decided to coach women over the age of 50. One, I was 45, going on 50, but I found that those were my best clients. That was my best avatar. They were decisive. They knew what they wanted. They had the money. They had the time. They invested in themselves and their personal development. There were women who were either divorced, separated, widowed, changing careers, and thinking, what else can I do with my life? And I would show up as the mentor, as a coach, to help them transition in those periods in their lives. And so that's what I do. They would hand over everything to do with technology to me. My business expanded from being a coaching business to a website development business to a publishing business. So I created a business model that had multiple streams of income. I just wasn't relying on the coaching for my income. And I would outsource the things that I didn't do and help people in that way as well. So remember to narrow your target market and just to build all of the tools that you need, how to weave into your presentation your sales message. Mark Victor Hansen taught me how to sell without selling. He said to me, Gertrude, whenever you're on stage, you have to put your sales pitch somewhere in the beginning of your speech, somewhere in the middle, and somewhere at the end. And you make mention that you have a book in the beginning. In the middle, you say, I'll be at the back of the room. If anybody wants a copy of my book, and take my story away. So you literally have to say it several times. And you say it in such a way that you get them to respond physiologically. So you could say something in the middle of your speech. Do you know someone who has a child who is struggling with building self-confidence right now? Put your hand up. You get them to do it physically because that reinforces them remembering that they need to buy your book at the end of the speech. You then put one line at the end of my speech that quadrupled my sales. And the line was, I'm going to be at the back of the room selling my book and signing it. My autograph is worth something on eBay when I win my first Oscar. So I've been working on a screenplay. And I would say, buy one for yourself, buy one for someone you love, buy one for someone who needs inspiring. That last line gives people permission to buy multiple copies of your book. If you say buy a book, they will buy one book. People need permission to buy multiple copies. I remember giving a speech in the South Island of New Zealand. Again, I do a lot of presentations in small towns. There were about 200 people at this event. And I remember the line and I thought, wow, they're coming from all over New Zealand, which means members of their clubs haven't managed to come to this conference. And instead of getting them to buy a book, I changed that line and I said, I know you've come from all over New Zealand. I'm going to recommend that you buy a box of my books. I know your members haven't all come to the conference and you can go and on-sell the books to some of your members. It costs $980 to buy a box of my books and there's 28 copies. I sold 17 boxes that day, $17,000 worth of books. It was the craziest experience I have ever had. And I remember doing another speech in Florida. And at that presentation, two things happened. So one of the things I try and teach people is to know your value as a speaker. Know how much you're worth. I found out my value when I was invited to speak in Florida. It was the International Coaching Federation. And I didn't know how much to charge. The highest I'd been paid in New Zealand was $5,000 for a 1-hour keynote. In Australia, it was $7,500. So I called my father and I said, Dad, I have no idea how much I'm worth. My dad said to me, Gertrude, the fact that they called you all the way from Florida means somebody's seen you online, you've made an impression. Ask for what you want. Just close your eyes, pray, meditate about it. Just think of a number. So I called the lady back and I said, 15,000. And I held my breath and she said, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Send us your contract. So when I get booked to speak, you pay me 50% with the booking and 50% when I've done the job. I sent her my contract, my bank details. 3 days later, there's $15,000 in my bank account. And I thought, oh my gosh, they've made a mistake. They've paid me the full price. But what happened was I was talking in New Zealand dollars. And with the exchange rate at the time, it was 1 to 2. I made twice as much. I actually made $30,000.
Oh
Wow.
my gosh.
But the thing that I learned the most is I left money on the table. When I asked the lady and I said, oh, wow, I didn't think you would accept $15,000. She said, Gertrude, we had a budget for $25,000 for our keynote. I left $10,000 on the table.
Wow.
The lesson learned is when you're invited to speak, never say your speaking fee. Ask them for their budget. Say you'll work with them, whatever their budget is. Because we don't know our value. And this is what my dad was trying to say to me, right? But I thought 15,000 was a lot of money. I could have made 50,000 in an hour.
Yeah.
I sold myself short. And as women, that is one of the things that I really try and help women with. To know your value, to know exactly how much you're worth. We sell ourselves short.
Yeah.
At that same event, I also learned another lesson. And this is again through my coach, Jack Canfield. Jack taught me how to calculate my conversion rate when I speak. So every time you speak, if there's 100 people in the room and you've got books that you're selling or a program that you're selling, keep a note of how many books you sell, how many people sign up for a program. Because when you do that, you can come home and work out your conversion rate. The reason why I give people a feedback form before I speak is because I want to know what are the points that are really resonating and making sense. Where am I falling short with the questions they ask? So the next presentation I go and give, I incorporate that in my speech. So you're constantly refining your presentation. It's a living document. It's a living live document because you're getting this feedback from the people who hear you speak. So I learned my conversion rate. And when they told me to bring some books to sell, I said, how many copies should I bring? They said, oh, no more than 150. Nobody ever sells 150. Now, because I know my conversion, I asked them what audience they were expecting. They were expecting 3,000 people. And I said, do you mind if I send 500 copies? I know I'll sell them. And this woman said to me, nobody sells 500 copies at these conferences. I said, I know my conversion. She said, I'll have to find storage. And she was really pissed off because she didn't want to have to find storage for the books. And I said, I'm happy to pay for the storage. I know the books will sell. I shipped 500 copies. Do you want to know how many books I sold at that conference?
Yeah.
900 copies.
Oh.
People placed orders. I had people buying 10 copies of my book.
Wow.
So when you know how to convert a room, then you go prepared. You find out how big your audience is and you take enough material to do that. So I'm going to stop the presentation here because we've got a few minutes and I need you to ask me questions. This is now you getting the most value from this webinar? Anything that came up for you? It could be a comment, it could be a question. We've got about 5 minutes.
Well, I guess my question is, as I think about the, identifying my target audience,
Yes.
and I'm actually 50. So, when we talk about targeting the millennial, I know I have a story, but will my story really resonate with them? Because I know that there's a difference, in just in generations.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you one thing. When I came to the United States, when I did the stint in Pittsburgh, I was 49. And I realized that where I wanted to give the most value was in the inner city schools. So when I had free time, I used to volunteer. And I remember walking into the school and the kids were disruptive, they were noisy. It was so frustrating trying to even just get started with this speech. They were a very, very poor, low socioeconomic suburb I was in. And I had to stop, and I went into the toilet to cry. I wanted to make a difference to kids. And I was with my 14-year-old son at the time. And I went into the toilet and I thought, how can I get through to these kids? And this voice in my head said, talk to them as if you're speaking to Dumi, my son. Remember that these children are your son. And so what I did is I went back and I reintroduced myself. I said, I'm really sorry about the way that I started my presentation. I'm going to start all over again because I want to get to know you guys. I want to get to know you, who you are. So if each of you could stand up and tell me your name, tell me what will be said at your graveside when you die. What difference do you want to make in the world? And these kids stood up one by one. The first young boy said to me, and he was the most disruptive. He was chewing gum. And he said, I want to be a lawyer. And he was very cocky, And I said, oh, wow, that's interesting. Why do you want to be a lawyer? He said, because my dad's in prison. My brother was shot. He rattled off 10 people close to him in his life. And it changed everything. The next young man was low riding. His pants were hanging and he had a hoodie on. So he said his name and I could hardly hear what he was saying. And I said, I'm going to ask you to speak slowly because I can't really understand your accent. I'm not from here. And when you speak slowly, people get to really hear you. If you speak in a way that people can't understand you, that's where we can't connect. And then I asked him why his pants were so low. And I just laughed. I made a little joke. I said, I don't get it. It looks like you're wearing a diaper. And everybody laughed. And it kind of broke the tension. And he pulled up his pants and he belted up his belt, kind of embarrassed him a little bit, but it was funny. He told his story. And I also asked him to take off his hoodie. I said, people who wear hoodies are trying to hide something.
Yeah.
You're a beautiful young man. I'd love to see your face. And so the hoodie came off. And then there was a young girl wearing a short crop top, skimpy, really sexy looking. And, and I'm like, oh. And so she said she wanted to be a model and she's going to make a difference on the runways of the world. And, we started talking about that. But I got through to them by remembering that I had a 14-year-old son like them. So it depends, again, where are you speaking from? When I talk, my program is called Speaking from the Heart. With every audience, it doesn't matter whether they're Black, whether they're white, whether they're green, whether they're young, whether they're old. It's where am I speaking from?
Mhm.
Am I speaking to their pain or something that they are experiencing? That's where the disconnect happens. That's where if somebody is a businessman and he goes into a school and he starts talking about his business and he's done this and he's done that, the kids won't relate to you.
Mm.
There's no way they can relate to you because everything you're saying has got nothing to do with them and their lives. But if you're an entrepreneur like me, who's created multi-million-dollar businesses in New Zealand, but who grew up in a village with no electricity, with no running water, sleeping on a grass mat, selling at the age of 6 to pay
Mhm.
money for my own school fees,
Mm.
do you think I could relate to them and inspire them to be entrepreneurs?
Mm.
Yeah.
Cool, right? So you change your presentation and your story based on the audience that's in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
You have to tell stories that relate to their pain and their experience.
Right. Okay.
So I hope that helps. And we can extend our time. So the person I was supposed to catch up with has just
Mhm.
postponed until tomorrow. So,
Oh, good.
yeah. All right. Kelly, what do you have to say? Or anything?
With the targeting your audience, my story is huge. Like it's for teenagers as well as adults. So I don't know, how do I target my audience?
So you would create two separate demographics.
Mm.
You would create a program or a speech that you give to youth,
Okay.
program and a speech that you give to adults.
Yeah.
So for the young people, it's all about driving, taking responsibility as a young person because you were involved in a car accident.
Yeah.
So that's a completely different presentation. And for the adults, it's how do you bounce back when you lost your health,
Bounce
lost your
forward.
ability, bounce forward. Okay, bounce forward. I know that's your tagline, but you can craft a speech that helps people literally get up when they fall.
Mm.
So two different demographics, two different speeches.
Mm. Okay.
Awesome. So we have Barbara and Monisha. So you guys chip in.
Well, my chipping in, it's I found it very interesting what you said when you asked those kids how they want to be remembered, because that's my work. And I'm working right now, particularly with women who are between the ages of 45 and 80, who are writing living eulogies.
Oh, wow.
And that's what I'm working on with them.
Okay.
And my passion, my love is coming from a place of how empowered we are when we get to tell our stories, and how empowered we are to be able to say, this is who I am, and this is how I want to be remembered, instead of leaving it to others to tell your story when you're no longer here. And I was getting I had a couple speaking engagements before COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
And in the States, we've been shut down.
Yes.
It's regaining that that energy around it,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like I misplaced my mojo, and she's waiting. She's waiting. She's hiding somewhere, and she's just waiting until it's the right time. So I tell her every day, I know you're here, and I know I am here. Know that I'm here to greet you when you decide to come back. So this whole thing has changed the way I am standing in the world currently. But I so want to get this message out, and I'm not willing to go to places to speak. I will not go into public and do it. But so there's all that going on around it.
So let me tell you the opportunity that COVID-19 has given us, or what it gave me. I had to cancel 15 events just for the first 2 months of this year. And it hit me financially, spiritually, you name it. I started off the year in Norway. I went to London. I had New York. By the time I got to New York, I had to cancel Vancouver, Toronto, LA, Brisbane, Melbourne, 15 events for the first 2 months of the year. And it knocked me back. I'm not going to lie to you. I was down. In the middle of all of this, my mother died. I couldn't go back to Zimbabwe for her funeral. This is the first time I've been online since.
Oh,
So it gave us the gift of time. And I tell you, Barbara, I have refined my presentations. I have created my material. I have literally finished writing 3 books in the last 3 months. And like you, I have a heart condition. I'm recovering from heart failure. I can't risk going out there. But I have made more money in this time because there's so many people online looking for help. Do you know, just on LinkedIn alone, I reach out to 50 people a day. And by the end of the day, I get 30 to 40 people who've responded. So I just send a message. Hi, so-and-so. My name is Gertrude. I'm based in New Zealand. Would love to connect during this time. I coach, I mentor women to speak. I also have a speaking platform, and people are responding. So we don't even have to leave our homes. The other thing I've done is through LinkedIn, I've been approaching universities. So I told you, you can take your content now into the schools. How many young people are at home right now? How many schools are looking for guest lecturers? I was approached by a university in Slovakia. They don't even speak English, but they were lecturing in social anthropology, and my memoir is, the book title is Born on the Continent Ubuntu, and Ubuntu is an African philosophy. I accidentally branded myself as an expert in this African philosophy. There is no literature. If you Google the word Ubuntu, you will find Linux software. So remember when I said that you have to be an authority on your subject? All of my TED Talks are on the same subject. If you watch all 3 of my TED Talks, I talk about Ubuntu from different perspectives. I'm actually writing a book. So every time I get to speak, I explain the philosophy from a different perspective. And every single speech is a chapter in a book. So the opportunity is there and the choice is yours. And yes, we can stay and reflect and be down as long as we want. But for me, I had a dream, actually. I dreamt of my mom the other day. So you might notice that my hair is short. The day of my mom's funeral, I was so depressed. I woke up that morning and I think I lost it. And I got a scissors and I just cut off all my hair. In Africa, when someone close to you dies, you normally shave off all your hair. And the next morning, the day of the funeral, my sister, my brothers, I talked to my sister, we were online, and she looked at me and she started laughing. And she laughed so hard. She's like, Gertrude, what have you done? I'm like, why are you laughing? It's Mom's funeral. She said, this is so funny. She said, you look at yourself in the mirror. Patricia, stop being stupid. What are you talking about? She says, Gertrude, you look so much like Mom. He says, now every single time you look in the mirror, you'll be looking right at her. And so last week I had this weird dream. I was brushing my teeth in the morning, and when I looked up into the mirror, the person looking back at me was my mother. And she was laughing the same way my sister was laughing. And she said to me, you see, that's why I gave you my looks, so that you will never forget me and know that I'm always in you, but it's time for you to get up and do your thing. And that's what inspired me to put it out there to the community that I'm back online. I'm running these webinars, I'm coaching again. but you get to choose how long you want to stay down.
Mm.
And to honor my mom's memory and everything she taught me, if I let the grief consume me,
Mm.
I'll never get up again. So it's okay to stay with it for a while, Barbara.
Yeah, well, and I know that it's what needs to be right now.
Mhm.
And I'm with complete peace with that.
Use the time to go inwards and reflect.
Oh, yes, yeah, that I'm doing so much writing and so much walking and so much reading. I mean, I'm the internal guru.
That's good. And when your genius is ready to come out, you'll well, just come
Right,
with real
right.
thing again. But the gift of time is what COVID-19 has given us. And it helped me prioritize what is important in my life and what isn't.
Mm.
It helped me eliminate negative people. Oh my gosh,
Yes.
I had surrounded myself with such negative people. I'm not on Facebook anymore. And it was because I was hacked, but it was the best thing that ever happened. So I choose, I select, I literally select the people who energize me and give me something back, because I was surrounded by psychic vampires, people who just suck, and take. And I couldn't do it anymore. I just didn't have anything else to give.
Mm.
So Barbara, you didn't introduce yourself. Say where you are so that everybody gets to know you.
Oh, I'm in Seattle.
Okay.
In Seattle. Awesome.
Yes.
All right, Monisa, welcome. Where are you calling from?
I am from Kashmir. It's a place wherein there's a lot of conflict. It's between India and Pakistan. And firstly, I just want to say that, I mean, I couldn't attend it wholly. It's 2 in the morning actually right now, so tough,
Oh,
and
thank you for joining us. I recorded this. I'll send you the recording.
thank you so much. So, but I'm happy that I was able to join, because whatever part I could attend, it was really, really inspiring. At times, I really felt connected with you. So it was really inspiring. I teach at a university here. I teach journalism,
Oh, wow.
and yes, and I do train students in public speaking and few things like that. And the focus of my work has been to engage with youth. Maybe you have an idea about my place. It's an open conflict. There's a war in place, and every day we have somebody dying. Just a couple of days back, a 7-year-old kid died because of what it's
Conflict.
quite amazing at times. And when you see around and you see the kind of frustration that is there in youth, uh, it sort of breaks your heart. And I'm in my mid 30s right now, and I guess I've learned to sort of reconcile and cope up with a lot of situations, a lot of things that are happening.
Mm.
What I'll just
I'm
cut
on
short.
the Skype. Sorry.
Just mute yourself, Kelly.
Oh.
Say that
I
again.
I'll cut it short. I just want to sort of get the vibes and energy and something from you, so that I end up being inspiring to others, and I'm able to make a change somewhere, be of some help to people around, at least to my students. Because you speak to them, there's a lot of depression. We have a huge population which suffers from PTSD, the post-traumatic stress disorder, because there's an active conflict in place. Women all the time. There is high rate of violence in place, and then there's domestic violence also. So there are very few avenues, very few opportunities. We hardly get to, interact the way we have been able to do during the lockdown. So I really find this as a very significant, space for me right now. For example, this thing, being able to be part of this immensely empowering gathering, and Gertrude, listening to you was just wonderful. Yeah, so thank you so much.
Thank you. I worked a lot in Zimbabwe during the AIDS pandemic, and I can relate to grief. The average family in Zimbabwe, I don't think I know anyone who doesn't know somebody who died of AIDS. And when I started with my book, I realized that there was a need to work with widows. You would find a woman who's had 5, 6, 10 kids and they're all dead. And going into those communities, and what I learned from the women, because a lot of them would have grandchildren to look after, I found joy in the saddest of places, with the poorest of the poor. You know, Zimbabwe is a country that does not have a currency. We don't have physical cash. People have gone back to bartering for goods. If you need salt, you barter for corn. If you need, you barter for, it's a barter system. But someone would crack a joke while we're sitting under a mango tree, and we will start to laugh. And people will laugh and find joy in just that little moment. And I started teaching The Power of Now. I read the book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. If you haven't read that, that will really help in the situation you're in. It talks about not focusing on the past, because what's happened in the past, we can't go back and change. What's coming in the future may or may not happen. There might be another bomb that hits your city. There might be somebody else. We don't know what the future holds, but there is only this moment. When you help people be present and to live in the moment, you help take them out of the grief of what's happened in the past and the sadness and the horror of what's coming in the future. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
I mean, in Zimbabwe, that was a time when there was no medication for AIDS, just like the situation we're in with COVID-19. You can imagine in a third world country where there's no food, there's no nutrition, there's nothing, and people are dying all around you. And the trauma of that. So grief counseling is something that is needed right now, or just about in every single country with what we're experiencing. And yeah, I'd love to help you develop a program that you could do online. And this is something else that I was going to offer all of you guys. The offering from this seminar is my mentoring and my coaching. I'm doing it one-on-one. I'm doing it in a group setting. I coach people in groups of 10, because I find that with 10 people, I can really give people value and my time at a good price. The one-on-one coaching is expensive. So after this presentation, I'm going to email you the different packages that I'm offering. But running events like this, where you're putting it out there, do you know somebody who is widowed? Do you know somebody who's lost a child? Do you know, 10 people who say, and they tell 10 friends, you've got 100 people in the room. That's how I built the Her Story conference. It was 10 people who told 10 people who told 10 people. I'm showing people how to grow their groups through Facebook and creating closed communities. So especially with grief counseling, it's very personal. It's very painful. You want to have a smaller, intimate group that you can share with, and creating communities online. So that's something else you can do. Because once you create that online community, even if you're not there, they support each other. When I started coaching people how to write books, it started with 10. I put out on Facebook that I was looking for 100 people to coach for 90 days for free. And in 90 days, 78 people published their books. Just doing it online. And out of the coaching, I got the questions that helped me develop the program. So, and then I got the testimonials as well, because to gain credibility, you need other people to say they've worked with you, they've experienced you, they know what you do. To gain credibility, you need to develop your digital footprint online. So if you Google Gertrude Mache in Google, you will find me all over the place, all over the internet. And it's been done deliberately. People don't know how to search engine optimize their images. Your photograph can draw people to you if you put your name. So you know how you take a picture and it gives you those digital numbers? You rename it and put your name. So when a search engine is trolling the internet, it doesn't see images, but it sees letters, words. So if you go into Google Images and type in Gertrude Mache, you will find hundreds of pictures of me. And it's because when I do a podcast, when I'm interviewed by someone on radio, if I'm asked to come and give a presentation, I email them my photo. I make sure that the photo has my name, not digital numbers. So that's what creating a digital footprint is all about. And finding those free opportunities. I'm going to okay, good. Yeah, so creating that digital footprint is crucial. So that if somebody is Googling you, they can actually see that you are who you are. During the free podcasts, you don't get paid, but you're reaching somebody else's audiences. Every time I do a podcast, I create something for free that I can give away. It could be an ebook, it could be a quiz, it could be an audio recording of a meditation. Whatever that free digital content is that you can give away, you can create a landing page. And at the end of the podcast, you can say, I've got a free gift for everybody. Go onto this link, download my free ebook, download a meditation audio, download this, and you get people's emails and you start creating your own email list. So building email lists is really important. Using websites like Eventbrite. You all book through Eventbrite, right? Eventbrite is a search engine. If you tag your event with women's empowerment, online webinar, seminar, it could be a youth coaching program, whatever the keywords, people will find you. People are actually using these event platforms to find content. So you could put out something for free and then post it on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. So that's the other thing I'm helping people to do, is how do you use all of the social media platforms to create your digital footprint and be visible? That makes sense? So I will email you at the end, the different coaching levels. Also creating video courses. So with the Zoom platform, like I'm doing right now, you can record a whole program and they don't have to be long. A lot of the master classes that are online, every episode is no more than 10, 15 minutes. So you could put out a program with 20 videos that are 10 to 15 minutes long, and then create a workbook out of it and transcribe it. That's why I was saying to you earlier, don't worry about this. I will email you this presentation, because all I do is strip the audio, get it transcribed, and you've got that content to give away to people. So I hope that helps, and so we can connect, and I'll see how I can help you with that. Monisa, it's really good to meet you.
Thank you so much.
So we've been joined by Milana. Milana, where are you calling from? I'm sorry you missed the...
Yes, hi. I didn't know what time it would start. when I got the email, it didn't give me the time.
That's okay. I'm going to be running this again tomorrow, and I've recorded this so you can watch it. But tell us a little bit about you and where you're calling from.
I am in Salt Lake City in Utah in the United States.
I remember interviewing you when I first started the Her Story conference.
Yes, it was amazing. I loved it.
Wonderful to see you again. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
I am an international best-selling author of 2 books about spirituality, self-help, and forest bathing.
And what?
Forest bathing, using nature to heal.
Forest bathing. Wow, that's different. I wasn't sure if I heard you correctly. Wonderful.
Yes. You know how we all get to the shower and we get very clean, and we are very specific about, we have to wash all the parts of ourselves in order to be healthy.
Yes.
But not many people know that the same requirement is for us to go into the woods, into nature, walk in the trees in order for our soul to be healthy. Many people get depressed and sad and they don't even know why. And it's because they're disconnected from nature. It's a requirement. It's not optional. Just like you will never say, I don't want to wash myself for a year. I think it's optional. But people don't know that nature connection is so required for our soul to be happy as it is shower for our physical self to be happy. It's not an option, it's a requirement, and I'm educating people about it.
That is awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, welcome to the call. So I will ask all of you a huge favor. Please send an invitation to 10 friends to attend tomorrow, the next day, and the next day. So that's how I grow my lists. I ask the people that I inspire to share the inspiration with friends. Do me that favor. I am going to be having this webinar in the evening as well because the time difference is a bit odd. I chose this time. It's early morning for us in New Zealand, but it was so that I could reach people in North America and the UK. But I'll be doing an evening one as well. So Kelly, next time you don't have to wake up too early. If you want to join the evening webinar, it will be from 7 in the evening to 8:30 as well.
Okay.
I'm going to do it for 7 days. And what I'm trying to do is to get 1,000 new people to coach and mentor. And I want to coach them in groups. The group coaching helps you not exchange your hours for dollars. So I will be sharing the business model that I coach people to create coaching groups. And what happens is a lot of people will coach people one-on-one. And unless you're being paid $200 to $500 an hour, it's not really your best use of time. So if I have people in a group of 10 and I charge $97 an hour and I meet them for an hour every 2 weeks, I am making $970 an hour for 4 weeks of my time an hour. Does that make sense? If I create 10 groups, that's now 40 hours. 970 times 10 is $9,700. So I'm trying to help speakers to work smart and not hard. When people take me on one-on-one for one-on-one coaching, I charge $1,500 a month. So I've got to a point in my life when I value my time. So I have 3 different levels of coaching. 97 is the lowest. I have a medium one where you get to talk to me every single week. And then I have my one-on-one coaching. And I help people create their own coaching programs. So I've made more money teaching people to do what I do than to do what I do.
Mm.
And a lot of people say to me, Gertrude, people are going to copy you. They're going to, there's so much abundance in this universe. So what if somebody copies what I'm doing? If I can inspire someone else to do it, my job is done, right?
Mm.
So don't be too scared to hold on to your knowledge and think, oh, if I share this, somebody else is going to do it. Yeah, they will, but they will never do it like you. There's only one you. And this is where that authenticity I was talking about comes in. You know, when I created the Her Story movement, I had a woman from New York who said that she would curate a conference for me in New York, in Las Vegas, and Manila. She was a Filipino lady. We went full throttle and planned the first event. We got sponsorship from Google, Microsoft, and Craigslist. The venues were paid for, the food was paid for, all 3 events were fully funded. 3 weeks before the first event, 6 months later, this woman calls me and says, Gertrude, I've changed my mind. She says, I'm going ahead with a conference, but not under your brand.
Mm.
I had recruited 100 speakers. She walked away with 50 of my speakers. She walked away with all the funding. I trusted a random stranger online with my business. I didn't know who the sponsors were. She was dealing with everything in the United States, and I was absolutely crushed. Fortunately, the ethos of my organization is the Ubuntu philosophy. Ubuntu has got 4 pillars: connection, empathy, compassion, and collaboration. And I had 30 women coming from New Zealand and Australia who know me personally. And I was going to cancel the event. They had paid for their flights, their hotels. And they said to me, Gertrude, we're coming because we know you. We're not going to go with this woman. What can we do to help you? And I said, well, if you're willing to collaborate with me, we need to raise the money for the venue. And they all chipped in money. And I got enough money for the venue. I remember landing in Las Vegas a week before the conference without a venue. My mother got sick in the middle of all of this. I had to go back to Zimbabwe for 2 weeks. And I got to Las Vegas and we hustled. We found the most beautiful little venue and we pulled off the first successful conference.
Mm.
Some of my friends decided to go to this woman's conference and she kept my dates. She did it on the same date as mine.
Mm.
So 2 of my friends said, Gertrude, we're going to go and see what she's up to. So they went and her event completely tanked.
Mm.
And I'll tell you why. So you notice that when I recruit people for Her Story, I'm looking for 100 speakers, right?
Mm.
The reason is the 100 women who come to speak are holding space for each other. We're there to support each other. I'm creating a mentoring program. I recruit half of the women are first-time speakers, the other half are professionals, because I want the women who haven't spoken to be inspired by the ones who have. So it's a giving platform. It's not just about taking, right? So what she did is she was vying to get a position in Congress. So the state of Nevada has got most women in Congress right now in the United States. So she recruited politicians, congresswomen. They came in and did their 15 minutes and left. There was no one in the room. She had sold booth spaces. People paid to have a booth at this conference. There was no audience. It completely tanked.
Mm.
So someone can steal your idea, but they can't steal the essence of who you are. And what's infused in my organization is who I am. So don't ever be afraid to share. Don't ever be afraid to think, oh, someone will steal my idea. Sure, they might take your idea, but they will never do it like you. That's what makes you unique. And if you can tap into your authenticity, you can create business after business that can be replicated by other people, but it doesn't matter. It actually doesn't matter. And that's why I was saying that I've made more money teaching other people to do what I do than doing what I do.
Mm.
Sharing my ideas. So, any more comments before we wind down?
Mm.
It's been great connecting with all of you. So I'm having this every morning, 7 o'clock in New Zealand until 8:30, in the evening, 7 p.m. until 8:30 p.m. So if you miss one, you can always tune in. And I'm going to change my my email to make sure that people are aware that it's New Zealand time. I had about 100 people who registered for this. So I think a lot of people are thinking it's tomorrow because the date was the 30th, and it's the 30th here, which is tomorrow in the US. So I'm really impressed with the Americans who did show up because I thought I had made it clear, but no, thank you. And the other thing about these events, again, is even if one person shows up, when we started, I just had Danielle on this call. And what did I say to you, Danielle? I said, we're going to go ahead with this, right? Why do you think I did that?
Because I guess, actually, I don't know. I was just happy that you didn't say, well, wait for the next one. So
I honor the people who show up. For me, it doesn't matter if I have one person in the room or if I have 100. I honored you for showing up on time.
Valued her commitment.
And that's what you have to do, no matter where you're speaking. You don't know who that person is. I don't know you, Danielle. This is the first time I've met you, right? But I know that you are going to go and share my message to people. They say one person knows 250 other people. So no matter how small your audience is, deliver as if you are speaking to hundreds. This presentation is going to go onto YouTube. I just wasn't talking to you. I tag all of my videos on YouTube with the keywords of the people I'm trying to attract, and organically. This isn't just, it wasn't a presentation for one person. So even if people don't show up, record your webinar, put it online. I was ready to do it. And if nobody had shown up, I would have recorded this. Then I would have shared it with the people who did register. Does that make sense?
Yep.
But what I do like about the contact, and the smaller the group, the more intimacy you have, the more you get to know the people who are there. So small groups are great in that sense. But if you do get a group that's big, then schedule to connect with people in smaller groups of 10. That way you'll be more effective in getting to understand who everybody is and what their needs are. And it gave us more time to get to know each other and find out what everybody's doing. So we're going to have fun. I will email you what's coming forward with this Speaking from the Heart program. And let's make some magic happen. Have a fantastic day or evening wherever you are in the world. And good night to you, Manisa. Did I pronounce your name right?
Yeah, you did.
Okay, good. I hate mispronouncing people's names. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for showing up. Have a fantastic day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
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 Mm.